Feed the neighborhood with a tailgate-ready Big Bow Box. It's bow time.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Extra Points. This is Colby Reece, and joining me as always are the sports editors of The Breeze, Jackson Hephner and Kaiden Bridges. JMU just defeated South Alabama 31-23, and now they're 5-0 on the season as they head into their bye week. What is kind of y'all's initial reactions from the game?
Weird game. I was just gonna put that out there. I don't describe a lot of games like that, but you look at the whole performance. It looked like JMU was really dominating through most of it. And then I think it was like 11 minutes in the fourth quarter, JMU's up by 21 points. It feels like we're finally going to get a game that doesn't end in a one-possession win for JMU. And lo and behold, South Alabama, they make some adjustments on the offense. They get 2 touchdowns. Defense holds on. 31-23, the 4th straight one-possession win for the Dukes. So, I mean, just another interesting, kind of bizarre game in just what has been a very strange season for JMU.
Coming off of that, though, I do think there are a lot of goods. Obviously, Zach Horton having himself a day, 2 touchdowns, over 100 receiving yards, really good for him. Signetti said in the press conference post-game that Zach Horton is the most consistent player on JMU, period, offense, defense, both. So really great game for him. It was good to see him step up today. Also from the defense, that last defensive drive, I mean, a tackle for a loss of 7 yards from Aiden Fisher, a sack from Jalen Green, interception from Francis Meehan, back-to-back. So I think there's still a lot of goods to come out of this.
Yeah, and the defense definitely played really well today. Obviously, South Alabama picked up some momentum there in the fourth quarter, but as you mentioned, Jalen Green with a touchdown, Aiden Fisher stepping up again. Players just keep stepping up. They were missing Torres Jones and Jalen Walker again today, but they just continue to step up. So what are those areas you've seen from the defense today?
I mean, the defensive line is exceptional. I believe they had, South Alabama only had 24 rushing yards. And, this is a team that is run heavy. Their entire offense is built upon that. And, so they're really forcing teams to pass, which sometimes can be a double-edged sword. I think the Jaguars picked up over 250 passing yards once again today. So, the secondary is a weak point, and so there is kind of that, a little bit of that caveat. But, when you're forcing teams who are run-heavy to pass, we get results like this, where maybe they're able to get a little bit of momentum in the passing game, but really, they're not able to get enough down the stretch to be able to get the win. And I think, that defensive line, that is really contributing. That's contributed so much to so many of these JMU wins.
Yeah, in the post-game conference, Aiden Fisher called the 4 men in front of him absolute monsters. And I think that says a lot about this JMU defense. Jalen Green credited the defense, the progression that they've had, just as much to Fisher and as well as Trent Hedrick, who have stepped up in Walker and TJ's absence. So I think, like we mentioned earlier, there's still a lot of goods and bads, and I think the defense is seeing progression every single week. Signetti said that with the absence of the 2 linebackers, Fisher's been consistent, but also along that, Trent has completely stepped up, and he's seeing him progress every single game. So, like I said, just progression, it's still building. So I think it's a good stopping point this week heading into the bye week.
Yeah, and the ESPNU broadcast said this defensive line is a Power 5 defensive line. I mean, they have played at such an exceptional level this year. They held Alabama to 27 yards rushing today. Just another dominant defensive performance within the rushing, obviously the passing, as you mentioned, some areas. And also Aiden Fisher, Kirk Zanetti said, show me a linebacker that's better than him right now in the conference. And really, he's just playing at such a high level. He's stepping up, and he'll certainly still be a key piece once Jalen Walker and Torres Jones come back, who they'll obviously hope to have back after the week off. But let's switch to the offensive side of things. Jordan McLeod, I thought, had a good game today. He did have that interception that was not sure what happened there, but just overall, him rushing, the running game wasn't the best, but it was still pretty consistent, and obviously 2 long passing touchdowns to start the first quarter. So what did y'all see out the offense?
Yeah, I think the offense had a great performance today. Signetti mentioned how in the second half, a lot of that conservative play calling we saw with, consistently calling the run, that was a lot had to do with the passing game, kind of had started to sort of, it was just kind of stumbling a little bit. You mentioned that interception. I think that was really big. But, you do look, I think there are a lot of bright spots in the offense, especially in the first half. I think Zach Horton was a huge bright spot. I mean, to have a 40-yard touchdown reception in the first quarter, cut to the fourth quarter, he's got a 66-yard. I mean, that's insane. Like, when's the last time you've seen that in a football game?
Yeah, another bright spot, I guess you could say, for JMU's offense is Elijah Surratt. I mean, having the opening touchdown for JMU, their third opening drive touchdown of the season, him being as young as he is, only a sophomore, I think he's really shown out for this JMU offense, especially in the passing game, something that wasn't necessarily clicking at first. Kaylon Black with over 15 carries today, I think around 65 rushing yards, so definitely played a big role in this JMU run game, so that we've seen succeed through the season so far. So like Jackson mentioned, I think a lot of goods out of this JMU offense today.
And putting this game behind JMU now, heading into their bye week, what are the key areas you think JMU really needs to kind of focus on during this bye week to improve as they face Georgia Southern in 2 weeks?
Pass defense. I mean, point blank, pass defense. I think especially considering the opponent that they have to face in 2 weeks, Georgia Southern. Last time I checked, they were the highest ranked passing offense in the Sun Belt. They're getting more passing yards per game than anybody else. And, JMU has really benefited from playing opponents like Troy and like South Alabama that are run heavy, forcing them to rely on the pass when they normally don't. Georgia Southern relies on the pass already. So I think, when you look at a lot of the mistakes, some of the key areas where, that allowed the Jaguars to come back in this game, I do if I was JMU, I would be worried about a team like Georgia Southern and, maybe getting those mistakes exposed even more to the point where they dropped their first game of the season.
Yeah, and we saw Georgia Southern last year pass all over JMU, and they lost on the road. So Georgia Southern kind of knows how to get at this JMU defense, and they're obviously not at the level they were last year. So,
for me, as Cignetti made prominent during his press conference, just resting. Like, we saw quite a few injuries on the field today. Obviously, once again, Walker and Jones out. I think this is a good week to kind of just rest and recuperate. Cignetti said the team is fatigued, coaches and players. Over 4,000 miles traveled in the last 3 weeks, on the road, super hard road games. So I think there's a lot to say about that, but also just coming back to it all and just having a week of rest and just fixing the pass defense or fine-tuning the small mistakes that still kind of need to be clicked together, but just kind of taking the week to take a breath, as Cignetti said.
Yeah, and JMU was obviously handed a very tough schedule, 3 straight road games, but they're 5-0. They face Georgia Southern in 2 weeks, and then they have a short turnaround as they'll face Marshall away from here. So we'll be back here in 2 weeks at Bridgeforth Stadium as JMU faces Georgia Southern. Thank y'all for joining me, and that's all we have from now.